Andrew, what's up, brother? Good to see you.
How are you doing? Good to see you.
Good. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
God, how long are you with me now?
Since 2021.
2021.
That's-
Wow. Time goes by fast.
It goes by so fast.
All right. Wow. So tell me about yourself, Andrew. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in North Carolina. My father taught at UNC, so I grew up a lot in the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, area.
Okay. And where'd you go to school?
I went to school. I went to high school there, but then I ended up going to a military academy.
Oh,
So
okay.
I went to military academy in Woodstock, Virginia.
You look like one of those freaking military guys.
I was a troubled youth, if you will.
Were you?
So
No, not
well,
good.
I didn't like to be told what to do, and even like at a young age, I wasn't like too bad. But a lot of parents threaten you're going to go to military school. My parents moved forward with that threat.
They meant-
So yeah. So
They
I ended up
meant it.
going. But when you're in a military environment, you learn how to clean, you learn how to be disciplined. I can make your shoes look like mirrors.
I can imagine.
Study 2 hours a day. So it's good. Military really wasn't for me, so I only stayed there for about 2 years. But then I feel like it was a lesson learned. Definitely beneficial in the end.
And like, what's that? What is military school like?
What is military school like? Well, you got to get up at 5 a.m. They want you to go out, salute the flag. You have to clean up a lot of garbage that somehow ended up there the day before, even though you cleaned it up the day before. That's called campus police. So you get out, you get up at 5, you salute the flag with the battalion, with the maybe 1,000 people, and then you meticulously pick up any kind of garbage that you may see outside. Then you go back in, make sure your barracks are in order, clean. Then you set up again. Then you march to the mess hall and you eat.
Oh.
But everything is like a formation. Everything you're doing is a formation. And then you go to school, and then you're studying for like 6, 7, 8 hours, and then you're back. And I got in trouble a lot, so I had to do a lot of
Push-ups?
tours and different things. Well, tours are every time you get caught doing something or have an issue, you have to walk in full dress uniform for an hour around the barracks with a whole group of other misfits that did the same thing. So
Oh, you've been doing that shit every day.
Well, I
my
I
God.
got caught smoking cigarettes and doing a lot of things, and I would get caught every day. So I had hundreds of tours. So there was always several hours after school every day that I'm marching around this building.
Oh my God.
I didn't really have any other issues, but as far as if you get caught smoking, that was like 15 hours. And I would get caught smoking every day. So I would get 15 hours every day. And, that was part of it,
Wow. When'd you give up smoking?
I gave up smoking a few years after that, like when I was in my early teens. I was a teenage bodybuilder, if you will.
Yep.
I was big in fitness, and so smoking and fitness don't really go
Don't-
together.
yeah,
So
of course not.
that was more of my military school experience.
Wow. How long did you graduate from military school? Or
It's not a question of graduating. Like I was there for almost 2 years, and then I just didn't want to do it anymore. The people that stay the whole time, in theory, you go to West Point.
Yeah.
You get set up to go to like other military, futures,
yeah.
but it wasn't for me.
and then you end up in the Navy and you have a rank or whatever it is.
Yeah, I ended up getting out of there, and then we moved to upstate New York. My parents got divorced, and I was in upstate New York. I went back to school there briefly, high school-wise. Then we moved to Florida,
Okay.
and then I went to school for exercise physiology, and I got into like personal training, and that was my thing there.
Okay.
So I personal trained for a long time, and I sold cars. So I was doing both. I would get up, I would personal train at 7 a.m., 6 a.m., and then I would sell cars from 7 to 7, and then I would do more training in the evening at Gold's in Naples, Florida,
Oh, wow.
Gold's Gym.
When did you meet Tio?
I met Tio in the mid-90s. I worked for Town Sports International, which is basically New York Sports Club, and I did corporate sales, which basically means, let's say that you're working at Bloomberg or you're working at Goldman Sachs. You're going to have like an incentive to go to New York Sports or Equinox or any of these gyms. And this was what I would do is I would go to these companies and I would pitch New York Sports Club, and so that's how I met Tio. So Tio was the manager of the gym and I was the manager of sales.
Oh, okay.
So in a fitness environment, you'll have like different types of managers. You might have a PT manager, you might have like a fitness manager that runs, the gym itself, and then you have the sales manager that handles like the memberships.
So if you're in military rank right now, who's higher? Your position or Tio's position? The gym?
Oh,
higher?
in the gym? I would say his, but they're different roles. My job was just straight memberships, and his job was to run the gym. to
Oh,
run
okay.
the whole
So he
entire
ran
thing.
the whole gym.
Yeah, he ran the whole gym, open, close, everything, and I'm selling. I'm selling memberships. I'm, handling our group of people.
But you're doing it for the company, though.
I'm doing it for the company, for our branch. Kind of like Keller Williams. New York Sports and Equinox, they all have individual branches.
Sure.
So I was responsible for the 59th and Park location.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like you were a regional guy responsible for everything.
Just corporate sales for 59th and Park New York Sports Club.
Oh, okay.
I was one of the top, people, in that role, and it was fun. It was a lot of work. We have like not a lot of work in the sense that, you just have to be able to grind the phones, and you have to really be, you got to be in it. And I was a real bodybuilder, so my mentality, when I was a teenager, my goal was to be in the gym and be able to get paid for it all day, every day.
So you did that.
So I accomplished that, that goal.
You're a real gym rat.
I was a real gym rat.
Okay, unlike me, where 2-3 hours and I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, when you're competing and you're just living in the gym and you're training yourself and then you're training people and then you just want to be in that.
Silly question. What do you like more, training people or yourself?
I probably like training myself the most, but I really enjoy helping people. Like even how that translated over into real estate. Like if I can help you with your life and help you focus and help you get in shape,
How hard is that though? I never could do that.
It's not that easy, but I mean, I would want people to like text me throughout the day. I want to know everything you're eating, everything you're putting in your mouth. I don't care if it's 11 o'clock at night. I want to see your fridge. I want to see your grocery list. I want to know exactly calories in, calories out. It's when I'm training someone for competition, you have to eat.
That's different. Yeah.
So you got to eat every 2 hours. You can't cheat, and if you cheat, I could tell. So if I'm seeing you every 2 weeks and you look this way, and now 2 weeks later you look this way. It's like something's happening here. So I want to know everything that happened that entire time. So it's kind of like it's fun, but you're training some people for bodybuilding and some people for just life. Because we were also training like business people. There was like people that I sold cars also. So I was at a Chevy dealership in Naples, Florida. And I was one of the youngest salespeople there. And I would train some of those people. Then I would also get people that I sold cars to. When they found out I was a trainer, I would pick up some of that business, not always, but.
So interesting.
It was an interesting time.
Okay.
I moved out of my parents' house when I was like 17. So it was either like you're either going to make it or you're not going to make it. So you got to pay the rent, you got to pay your bills, you have to have a car in Florida. There's no like transit.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but I loved everything I was doing. So at the end of the day, it didn't seem like work.
Okay, cool. And then when did you leave Naples and come to New York, or what was it after Naples?
I had some challenges in Florida, and I wanted to just get out. So I was about 19 when I moved to New York. I moved to Hoboken.
Okay.
And I started personal training and waiting tables and bartending right away. It took a while to get the personal training business up to where I didn't have to supplement it with like a night job, like bartending and things like that. And that was interesting. But I was in Florida for such a long time, and I wanted to just get out and just get back to New York City.
Just get back to New York. So when you were doing the personal training in Hoboken, where were you based at? Hoboken or New York City? Oh, you are?
Yeah, I was living in Hoboken.
What was that gym like?
That was more of like a mom and pop's gym. It was called Tropical Shade Health and Aerobic Club. They were competing with New York Sports and some of the other big clubs in that area.
Couldn't do it.
I met the owner. I mean, they were all right. I mean, they didn't have the same numbers,
Sure.
but I got a better rate there because it was more of a boutique gym. So I liked it. They kind of let me do what I wanted to do, and you just had to keep your certifications up, and and that was it. They basically take a piece of what you're
doing.
Yeah,
business.
exactly.
So it's sort of like real estate in a way.
Yeah. It's very, very similar to real estate.
And then, what's it like selling cars though? What's that like? I was always intrigued by that. I never did that. I never did either of those things.
Yeah, I mean, selling cars, it's just, it's a people business. You're meeting people, you're finding out what's important to them. I worked at different kinds of dealerships. When I was at Chevy, it was more like high-end, like Suburbans, Vets, a different type of product. But I also did buy here, pay here before I got to that level, which means that it's a credit situation. Like if the person has bad credit, you might come to the lot, you might see this Benz, but I have to have you come in and I have to run your credit, and I have to find out like what you actually qualify for. So that was a much more. It wasn't high end. It was like hardcore selling. My sales manager at the time, he owned the lot. His name was Ed, and he would throw me the phone book and say like, "What's your day look like?" He goes, "You have a whole book that you could start calling right now." And if I wasn't on the phone the whole day, there was hell to pay. There was really no like HR or any kind of formality. You were either going to make these calls and close these deals, or you were out.
Wow. Okay. And then is that salary position or commission?
100% commission. 100% commission. And then, it was an interesting time because it's similar to real estate, but it was more about like closing. We had what's called a 100% TO policy. So it means that let's say you come and I'm showing you and we're going through the process and you like this car and I had you do the application and we have an idea of what's going to work. If that client was like, hey, I need to go talk to my
Mom or
family or
wife.
I can't hang out, I got to go. If I didn't pass him on to my manager to have an opportunity to talk to him, there would probably be some hell to pay. You know?
Wow.
And so, it's just giving someone else the opportunity to close because I didn't. So that's a 100% TO policy. And so I was good at closing, but at the end of the day, if I didn't, I had to pass them on to Ed. And Ed was a master closer. People that I wouldn't think like, how did you get this guy to buy a car? It would be done. He would just have it done. I thought I was good, but when you're 18, like you could think you're good, but you're going to see masters that are actually good.
Absolutely. And what you're selling new cars or you?
That was used.
Those are used.
That was
cars.
before I got into the Chevy dealership. I had to you have to pay your dues in cars, and they're not going to start you off in a high, especially being 18. So I kind of transitioned my way. It wasn't my goal. I didn't really want to sell cars, but the training wasn't enough to supplement everything at that time.
Okay. So then you're doing both. When do you get out of the car sales?
I get out of the car sales when the training is enough to be able to live, be able to cover my bills and do everything that I could do.
How much training are you doing now?
At that time, maybe like 10 clients a day.
10 a day?
Yeah.
Wow.
8 to 10 a day.
And what's that for, an hour, 45 minutes?
Yeah, they're always an hour.
Hours.
But when I was doing the sales of cars during the day, it wasn't. It was just personal training like at 6 a.m., couple clients, and then at night. I would do car sales are always 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day rather. So 7 to 7, 12 rather. Sorry.
So 7 to 7. You're
7 to 7.
Doing the car dealership.
And then I'm personal training until 10, 11 at night. But the personal training until 10, 11 at night, that was like my passion. I couldn't wait to get into the gym. And I was a real, meathead, if you will, at the time.
Sure.
I was probably like 220, like 10% body fat. And all I cared about was my meals and my eating and everything was, So the car sales were to like get through financially and the training was what I wanted to do.
That's pretty cool. All right.
Yeah.
So you end up back in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's say you're out of the car salesperson. You're doing the
Just
sales,
personal training.
Personal training. And then when do you meet up with Tio again?
It came a point, I moved to New York City. And I moved to New York City. I was training, personal training in Hoboken for a while. And then me and my buddy Ahmed made the decision, like, we're going to go into New York. We're not going to make the same money that we're making. We're going to make more money if we move into New York, opposed to training here. And he already did membership sales. He was at Equinox and a few other places. And he was like, you got to do membership sales. You're going to make so much more money. I had slowly transitioned to membership sales in the Hoboken Club. But it was boutique. They weren't paying you what you would make in Manhattan. So, we ended up meeting with someone who was a sales manager of New York Sports in Manhattan, and they hired me. And then I ended up being at the 59th and Park location.
Okay, how long were you there for?
I was there for a few years. That's where I met Tio.
Okay.
That's where I met Tio, and that was all. And by chance, I got into the corporate end of it. Because when you're in Hoboken, you're just dealing with people coming in. You're calling people. You're trying to just get people to join the club. That's it. When you're doing corporate sales, it was a much larger thing. Because if you got a company, you might sign up 100 people at a shot. So instead of doing like 30 memberships in a month, you might do 200 memberships in a month. And that's where like the real money is. Yeah. And it's interesting because from that industry, a lot of people, there's Louise Devlin, who I think is at BHS now. There's a few other people that all started in fitness sales. In corporate sales, like what I did, and then they transitioned into real estate. At the time, I didn't know that I was ever going to transition into real estate, but that
was one of my questions. Like when you and Tio were together, are you talking about real estate there? Like, hey, I want to do this? Or?
Kinda. Tio's a master closer. He's excellent on the phones, and we kind of like would draw with each other. Even though we had different goals, he would just see me in there grinding on the phone all day long, and I'd see what he was doing, and we kind of like hit it off right away. We were very close, but there was a gentleman named Elliot Joseph who was a developer in New York City, and I would see him every day. He would come in and work out every day. And after some time, I started to get to know him and find out like what he did and what his story was. And it got to a point where I would meet him and he'd introduce me to people and he'd say, hey, this is Andrew Ziff. He's in fitness, but he should be in real estate. And it went on for some time. At some point, he introduced me to a gentleman named Andrew Heiberger, who basically set up, he created City Habitats.
Sure.
And so from that point is when I slowly made the transition into real estate.
Okay, so you make it in the City Habitat. You're there for, what year is this?
This is probably like 2003. I didn't do a traditional real estate start. I started on site. So I was working for buildings, doing like lease ups from like, I don't know, from concept to completion, meaning like the building is a project. You don't know what the whole story is going to be. And then we're hired to be on that project. And our job is to just lease the entire building out. Because I had a lot of prior sales history, but not real estate sales, they took a chance and put me on buildings.
Okay.
Normally you would start like in an office and you'd maybe do rentals and you're on the street. But it was kind of interesting because when you're on site in a leasing capacity, it's almost the same as membership sales. People are coming in, I'm closing you. Instead of closing you on a membership, I'm closing you to live here. So I became pretty good at it fast. People would come in and I would close them, and I started. I did multiple buildings, but I was starting to get the reputation that where if brokers would bring me their clients, I would close them. So even today, I have a lot of great relationships with agents and owners of many firms just from that time, from like the early 2000s.
Okay.
Because when you're a good on-site, people want to bring clients to you. And it wasn't like an ego thing. It was just like, I'll close your clients. You don't have to talk. Just come in. Like, you can talk. We can work together and close these clients together. Or you could just hang low and let me run the show, and I'll close your clients.
I'll get them closed.
And so I enjoy doing that. It was really a fun. I love people. I was learning to love real estate. So it seemed like it felt like a great fit.
So then,
from day one.
When did you really get out there and start doing?
Like on the street?
Yeah.
It was a transition. I was on several buildings. We opened up a building called 63 Wall Street. It was kind of a large project. It's with a company called Metro Loft Management, and things were going really well. But at that time, I met a gentleman named Arnon Barzilai and also a gentleman named Mike Roche. And these were great people Mike Roche was one of the top agents in that office, and he was doing a ton of business at that building. And so basically they all showed interest in, hey, if we can get off this project, if you guys can get off this project, maybe we can open something. And it was really him and Arnon and their kind of vision to open something and then have me coming to like have a team, if you will. It wasn't a question of me being like an owner or a partner right away. I was a little apprehensive because when you're on site, it's not a question of guaranteed money, but you have a base, you kind of have an idea of what you're going to be making every month. And, you have good months, you have bad months, but you kind of know what you're going to do. When you go free like that,
you don't know.
Sky's the limit, but you could also do nothing.
Absolutely.
But I was motivated, and I knew that if I had the opportunity, I could do it. So there was a bit of turmoil because when you leave a project, and when it's not done, it's not always a great situation. But we all left, and that's kind of what we did. They opened up a company called Broad Realty, and I left to have a team in that company.
And Broad Realty.
Exactly.
And then how long did that go for?
That went for a while. We were located at 25 Broad. This is in the financial district. Yep. Still in the beginning of financial district, really going from financial to residential. Because today it's a lot more residential, but it took 20 years to have that kind of change. The owner of that company, the partner, he was a bit slow on paying people. In real estate, you do a deal, you're supposed to get paid. He would hold people's money. There was a lot of challenges with that. So Arnon and kind of our whole group decided to make a move to where we took the entire office and opened up a company called New York Living Solutions like in one night. It was like a boiler room move.
Sure.
There was like 50 people, and literally in one night, we took the entire company and moved it into 90 John.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of rough because he owed people a lot of money, and we had to kind of go after him for months on end to get paid. But in hindsight, it made the most sense.
So now you're doing New York Living Solution. Is Mike with you yet, or?
Well, Mike and Arnon are the owners. I'm basically just a team
Mike
leader.
He was the owner.
Yeah, Mike was there. They had great vision of what they wanted to do, and
Remember the year of this?
This is probably 2004, 2005, maybe.
Oh, wow.
At this point.
Okay.
And the thing is, I'm at that point super green because just because you know how to close and just because you know how to do leasing doesn't mean you know how to do this business.
Right.
So I was, I'm learning as I go, learning how to teach agents, train agents, take people out, rent apartments. And it was a heavy OP market at the time. And it was really all about like lead generation and just trying to make appointments and get people, out to see apartments. And so our whole thing was hiring talent, training that talent, and then implementing.
What was your like biggest aha moment when you were coming into that? Like, what did you really say? Wow, okay.
Well, when I started to realize what kind of money you could actually make, like my best month probably was about 17 rentals. And at that time, if the average rental is from 2,800 to 5,000, if you do 17 deals at 5,000, it was like more money than what I had really made, in an on-site capacity. In on-site, you could do really well, but what a lot of people don't realize is you might only make $100 on a studio, $200 on a one bed, and each developer that you work for may have a different commission structure.
Sure.
There's some buildings I worked on where they didn't pay you anything. You would get a bonus at the end of the term.
Quarter or
Whenever
whatever.
whenever the building was done, they'd pay you a bonus. But if your base was 40, you were getting 40. And after taxes, there's no money. Whereas there was other buildings you could be on site leasing and you would get paid per deal, and it could be a much stronger, more lucrative situation. Wow. So it really depends on like where you are.
What would you prefer?
I prefer being on the street.
Okay.
When you're in leasing, you don't control. That's why a lot of brokers don't understand. You really want to treat leasing very well. And in this business, it's a relationship business. It's a small world in New York City real estate. You're going to see the same people over and over again. If you go to a building and you meet the doorman, treat the doorman, with respect, meet the doorman, know their name. But with leasing, they're dealing with a lot of headaches all day. Brokers are calling them like, is unit 2504 still there? Oh, it was here yesterday, and they're giving them a hard time. The on-sites, they don't get treated that well. So if you treat them well, help
They appreciate
them,
you.
they appreciate it. It also goes a long way. Because if you have a grumpy, difficult broker, and then you have an amazing, easy to work with broker, and you're leasing, and you both do the application at the same time on the same deal, they could choose who they're going to work with or not.
So it's obviously like working with me, the nice guy.
Oh, exactly. But I mean, ultimately though, like you get back what you give, and if you treat people good, it's going to go a long way.
Believe that, yeah.
So. Treat leasing great, treat listing agents great, whether it's sales, whether it's rentals, these relationships are going to go a long way. You have a bad time with a broker, you're going to be on the other side of that deal with that guy.
I always say that,
at some point.
when people are miserable, treat them the way you want to be treated, and
Exactly.
it's going to go a long way. And even if they're in a bad mood today, that doesn't matter. They're good people
Exactly.
at the end of the day. They're just having a rough day.
You could also turn them around. I'm really good with the grumpy Wall Street guy or the grumpy leasing person or broker that maybe they had a bad experience with another agent or you can get in that guy's mind and you can turn it around. Just because they had a bad experience once doesn't mean
it's going to
have it
all
with
the time.
you.
No, you're right. You're right.
Exactly.
I think we're both cut from the same cloth with that. I think we both do that well.
100%.
And then, so you're with New York Living Solution.
Yeah.
From what year did that start?
About 2004.
That started in 2004.
I mean, we had Broad Realty first, but it was a very short stint, and I wasn't an owner in any of these.
When did you become an owner?
I bought out Micro Shea probably like in 2013 or 12. Okay. So it was much later situation. And then I was Arnon's partner. So, I wasn't.
Did Bakula buy out Arnon?
Yes.
I never knew that. Okay.
Yeah. And so it was just a real long process.
So I thought Bakula was his partner originally, so he wasn't from the start.
No. Bakula started working with us in our Gramercy office. When my first attempt to be an owner, if you will, or a partner, was in our Gramercy, New York Living Solutions office. And this was around 2008. 2007, let's maybe call it 2006 because we closed that during the financial crash. And so basically we had the opportunity to partner with Mike and with Arnon to open a Gramercy branch. It was right next to Gramercy Taverns, 34 East 20th. It's a great location. And so it was 4 partners. So me and this gentleman, Nick Hetherington, and Arnon and Mike Roche. And it was a great opportunity.
How far from the academy is that? That's like right up the block.
Oh, very close, very close.
Yeah.
In fact, every time you were taking someone to Stuytown, you would walk by the police academy.
That's right.
And you would see, a lot of guys in there getting ready and going. And it was a great experience. But at the same time, when you have 4 partners, you really have to do a lot of deals or you're not going to make any money. Mm-hmm. And, when you're an owner, technically you're not, many owners aren't out doing transactions. I mean, I know Sirhan and a bunch of other people, they are, but in many cases, owners are not out doing deals. We had to do deals or there was no way we were going to financially be able to make it. But I wanted the opportunity to get my foot in the door as an owner. And there was no other way at the time to do it. So we all put in money and that, that's what we did. It was a very successful office for some time. During the 2008 crash, we had a good guy clause. which means that
Got out of
you
everything.
could get out if you give a certain amount of notice, and that's what we did. It was more Arnon feeling that because of the financial crash, we had to exit. Really, we were still doing deals and making money, and that crash, even though it was really challenging for many people, we were still doing a lot of business.
Okay.
Deals were still happening.
So
kind of different than the COVID situation where everything shut down. During 08, you had a lot of deals crash, but deals were still happening, transactions were still happening. We had really gotten into sales a lot heavier at that point. And so we had kind of transitioned from being almost all rentals to, let's call it 60-40, 40%.
I think that drove the market a little bit too, right?
It did.
That time.
It was an interesting time. The euro was double at the time.
Yeah.
And so, but, we had people like there was a deal at Chelsea Stratus where the guy had just lost his job. And he was like, look, I don't have a mortgage contingency, but I got to walk away from this. He goes, because I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. And, and really, instead of him walking away from 10%, it was almost half, because since he had bought it with the euro, it was a much stronger situation. But if he would have kept it, if that gentleman would have kept that property, it would have been worth $2 million more than it is today.
Wow.
Because Chelsea Stratus is an amazing building.
That's right.
There's a lot of uncertainty.
That's crazy when you think about it, right? So then, when did you come in contact with Tio again?
Well, during that time, Tio had moved to Florida. He had gotten out of the real estate in New York City world. And we would stay in contact, and I would tell him multiple times, every time we would talk, you should come to New York City. You should do real estate. Like, you're a closer, you're a people person. You would be amazing in real estate. And, I still didn't know everything. I mean, I thought I knew a lot, but I definitely didn't know the business. But I knew how to teach you how to make money in it. So, if Tio would have come, I was like, listen, man, I'll teach you how to do this whole process, and you'll crush it. Because there's agents that are nowhere near as good as him doing 7-8 rentals a month. Sure. I was like, you'll destroy it,
So when did he come?
Well, it took years later. Years later, after we had already closed the Gramercy office, I had finally bought out Rocher. I'm now a partner with Arnon in the financial district, and it was just reaching out to Tio a few times a year. Like, you should come down. Eventually, he did. It took years, but eventually he did. And he worked in our office.
Remember what year he came down? Or?
Before COVID, maybe 2018, 2017. Because shortly after that, he cut his teeth in our office. He was doing well. He was great on the phone. Other agents in the office. It was almost like, in Wolf of Wall Street, where he goes into that small brokerage, and he makes that first phone inquiry.
That's right. And
everybody in there is listening. I'm like, what is this guy? It's like magic what this guy is speaking. It was kind of like that with Tio in our office upstairs, because the people that were hanging out listening, they would be like, this guy just got here, and his phone inquiries are like
amazing,
perfect.
Yep.
So it was kind of like that.
And then,
then he transitioned and went to work with you, which was an interesting situation. He was like, look, I've known Rich for this amount of time. He's giving me this opportunity to go into Keller Williams. He told me a bit about it at the time. I really didn't know much about it. And I was like, go ahead and do it. Because Tio's like my brother. So it's not, in many cases, if someone's trying to leave, I may try to save it and find out, like, what are you leaving for? What's the reasoning? And his reasoning made sense. So I was like, do it, do it. I wish you all the best,
So he ends up coming over to us. And then
exactly.
You guys have a conversation when?
We had a conversation like several years later, really like right when COVID started.
Okay.
Because before COVID started, we were considering merging with some other large firms. When you're a boutique firm for many years, there is a lot of benefits. You could do what you want. You don't have a corporate leader telling you what to do. But at the same time, you don't have name recognition. You don't have marketing. You don't have, accounting. You do, but on a much smaller level. So we were just considering, like, listen, we had a great run. But I want a partner, I want a large partner, and I was willing to just give up, the ownership role, if you will.
And then what was that like? So he brings you in, you meet with Lauren.
Yes. Well, the challenge with that is when the discussion finally started, I was already somewhat committed to working with another large firm in Manhattan. And like the ink was pretty much dry. And the transition was they were going to allow me to slowly transition everybody out of the office. So I had a dual agency, and I had already transferred to their firm in Jersey. And so now I'm in their firm, And this is a very high-end button-up firm, if you will. So I wasn't going to be able to bring everybody. Because in a boutique firm, especially our type of firm, we had a lot of like closers that were great guys, but may not work in a very high-end real estate environment. You know,
Okay.
not that they did anything shady, but it wasn't
Wasn't the right fit.
Wasn't the right fit. So T.O.'s like, look, he goes, I know you made this agreement, but you got to meet Rich. He was like, there's just no way around it. He goes, you already are open to not being, you know, to selling out, if you will, or to merging with someone. So you might as well meet with Rich. And I was like, all right, but I already signed this. Like, what am I going to do here? He was like, don't worry about it. Just meet with them. And I was like, all right. So we made like a time, and I met with Lauren, and then we set up a time to meet with you. And then 4 months later, I'm a partner with Keller Williams, New York City.
That's awesome.
It was painful in a way because I had to go now break up this other relationship. But that person, that CEO, is extremely classy, and she, it was fine.
It was just broke up.
It was
and
okay.
Moved over, and then all right. So explain, what was it like going through that whole
whole
but
process?
Yeah. Now you're with Lauren, and
Well, I mean, the process was,
because we hit it off. Obviously.
I met with you, and you're not a normal suit, if you will.
Yep.
I mean, I know a lot of people that run real estate firms, and they're amazing people, and but you're very down to earth. I feel like you have an open door policy. If an agent has a problem, like as I'm meeting with you in multiple meetings in your office in 99 Park, other people are coming in. You're having like little quick sit downs. You're telling me like, hey, wait a minute, I got to deal with this. And I'm seeing a lot of these sit downs. Some of them are issues, some of them are problems, and you're like solving them like right then.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a lot of times people that are running these firms in your roles are not approachable. You may be dealing with a manager, you may be dealing with a managing director, you may deal with the really person at high level in that firm, but you're not dealing with the owner or the OP in your world. So in our world now. So I was really impressed by that, and also just like how you were handling me. You were like willing to just say, look, what do we got to do here? I feel like this is a great fit. I feel like I know you can grow in our world. And you always use the term our world to talk about like how it works in the Keller Williams world, And so after several months of these meetings, I'm sold. It wasn't even a question of having to be sold. It was a question of feeling like it made the right sense, So then we had a final meeting at Capitol Grill. You met with Mike Pakula, my partner as well.
I remember that.
And he was super impressed by you guys. He had already had some preliminary meetings, but this was more like formality of everything. And then that was it. And then the rest is history.
Came over, and that was
that was 2021. I mean, we didn't have to have masks at the time, so it was like in the beginning. Because with COVID, it came in waves, and it was like, hey, it's 2 weeks to slow the spread. Then we had to wear the masks. Then it got into a whole nother level. So when we met at Wolfgang's, we were like allowed to meet. So I know that was in the very beginning of that process.
It was. That's right. It was.
Because then it changed quite a bit.
And then what did coming over to Keller do for you? Was it everything? Let me ask you a different question. I'm sorry. Did I sell it pretty good where I was truthful to you in the whole process where it was what it was? Did you expect anything else coming out of it, or?
No, I mean, everything was spot on. It was just a transition because also a lot of our agents are not used to that type of structure. Even many today, I mean, there's a good amount that use Command, that use the systems, but one of our big goals in 2025 is to Kellerize agents more. People that have not fully transitioned to using everything, to use it. Because the agents that use Command, that follow the systems, that make their calls, that, it sounds like I don't know, it sounds like a little sales-ish, but it's not. Like, if you really follow this structure, it's going to work. Sure. And me too. Like, I slowly have become more and more following the Keller ways, and the more I follow it, the better, things are. So it's like, if you follow these systems, it's going to work. There's many agents that are, rogue is not the wrong word. They just already have their own system, and they're like, I don't want to do it this way, and that's fine. But I find that people who follow it end up doing better. And that was just on my own experience. It wasn't like being told or forced, but if you follow it, and our broker of record, Fanny, she's really a straight shooter, if you will. And at the end of the day, you don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to go into court. You don't want to have problems with the Department of State. If you listen to this lady, you're not going to have those problems. I was a broker of record for many years, and I've gone to Rebney hearings. I've gone to court. I've dealt with all those issues. I definitely don't want that job ever again. But you got to appreciate someone that her whole goal is to get you to make sure you're not going to have a problem. So agents just have to learn these basic things. Follow the systems because you'll make more money. and then just follow these basic legal guidelines so that you're
You're
not
good.
worried about being in hot water.
That's right.
You know,
And she does that really well.
she really does.
I know.
I mean, she's like a bulldog, but you know, in a positive. I mean that in a
Of
positive way.
course.
Fan, you know, because she'll watch this. So, you know,
Yeah. She'll watch it and we'll both be in trouble.
exactly.
Yeah. So you get going. You're in the Keller world. You know, and you had to have up and downs with it, right? What did you appreciate about Keller that you didn't have in the other place?
Just a lot of inclusivity, a lot of like collaboration, you know, and many big firms or even a small boutique firm, the best agents are not going to be so forthright with telling everybody what they're doing, how they're doing it. In Keller Williams, every week there's a new guest speaker, there's a new person coming in, there's a top producer open, you know, Michael Chappett, you know, so many different people, Sandy, who are willing to tell you how they do this, you know, and that is not, I have friends of mine at really high-end firms where sometimes they don't talk. They're like, you know, we don't talk in the elevator, we don't talk in the office. Oh, did any guest speakers come in and tell you how they make money and what they do? No. But in Keller Williams, people are very collaborative. So you're not forced to go to these lunch and learns or any of these events, but if you do, you're gonna get, it's not a question of an aha moment, but you're gonna hear like, oh man, this is how this guy's doing it, or how this guy's doing it. You know, mailers might work for this person, and phone calls might work for this person, door knocking might work for this person, but at least you have the opportunity to hear. You know, like Erin, who just had the podcast with you prior, she's extremely impressive. And I've seen her, I saw her at Mega Camp, I saw her in Family Reunion. But if you listen to what she's telling you, she's giving you nuggets that are going to be able to truly make you money.
Right.
If you use these things, it's actually going to, you can use it like day one to make you money. So that's very different than many firms.
Sure.
You know, you don't have top producers coming out openly happy to tell you how they make money.
I think it's interesting. Like even with this, this is not about me. It's about you. Right? And for me, the reason I bought into Keller was I wanted something for the agents, right? Where it's an agent-centric business. We're about the agent, and I really did believe in that. Sometimes I say, you know, I'm more of an agent than a broker, actually, because again, I care for you guys so much that I want to be able to give you every tool that it takes to make you successful, because I believe that if you're successful, I'm successful, obviously.
True.
And this is not to knock anybody else, because everybody has their own way of doing things, but I just think it's different with a lot of people. It's more about the brand. It's about this. Where with us, I think you guys are the brand,
Yeah.
right? You guys are the ones that go out there and hustle. So you should be able to sell yourself and to go out there and do your business and create your brand and do it your way. So why isn't it about you? And that's why I got the whole idea for this, where it's Keller Williams. We're here to promote our people and not, you know, Rich Amato and Keller Williams. It's more Andrew and his team and, you know, Erin and her team. And again, I'm not patting myself on the back in any way, just
Sure.
telling you the way we are. And that's what I believed in Keller, and that's why I went with them in so many ways. And that's why I think I fit in with Keller so well, and why I never left because of that reason was because it's my model. It's about the agents, and it always is. And yes, you could piss an agent off here and there, but again, it's kind of funny. We were saying this earlier. When someone leaves here too, they always tend to come back, or they always want to.
I've seen that. I've seen that.
Right?
And what's so interesting is about when you bought out Alon Brocka, a lot of agents that had left, they did different things. Maybe they went to some other firms. Many of them came back.
Yeah.
And I've heard that story so many different times.
Right.
And it's not just financial. I mean, sure, if you're at another big box firm, you might end up giving them $300K for the end of the year if you have a decent year, whereas at Keller you would have given, you know, $50K.
Sure.
So that's a huge thing. But it's also about the relationships, about the culture, about like wanting everybody to do well and feeling like good in that culture. Because what I mean by the culture is that everybody's like super positive, you know, agent centric, okay, but people are like happy to be at work and they're happy to be in the environment that they're in. And you don't really always see that. I interview a lot. Recruiting is a big part of our job. So I hear a lot of other firms and agents' experience, and you don't see that in a ton of other firms. And I'm not saying that just because we're Keller.
I'm not saying it
I
either.
see it every day. You know?
And you're right. And I think this is all over. But I just think it's interesting. The people that are not happy, they you know, misery loves company too. So you get
True.
that, and you know, you get those people, you know, talking all this shit or whatever it is that,
True.
you know, again, misery loves company. They want people to go along, but yet those are the first ones that come back.
Yes.
And then they leave the poor bastard that went with them. You know what I mean?
They should
It-
better.
it's-
They should leave on a good note though, because if you don't, then
right.
you know who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah,
But
that's right. But again, with us, it's just such an interesting world because again, it's not just about the money; it's about everything.
of course,
It's about stuff like this where you're going out there and helping each other to like you said, where you got guys teaching and gals teaching and showing you what they do to make money. When I first got into the business, sort of like you, everybody would sit there and
exactly.
cover their work.
Nobody would tell us anything.
Oh no, it was brutal.
And you'd have people in the office, you know, you're making an appointment and you hear, and they're like, well, I have something Andrew doesn't have, and I can meet you at 10 a.m. And actually, I'm not charging a fee, and Andrew was on that property. Like, they're literally, not to say that but it's just a cutthroat environment in some cases.
Yeah.
We really try to have a non-cutthroat environment in our office, but that's kind of you guys' culture anyway.
Yeah,
know?
but again, I think that's where the business is going too. At least I hope it is. But you know, again, it's about you guys and then more about Keller in my opinion.
No, I agree.
You know,
I agree.
what really excited you to come over to Keller? Like, what was it besides me and Tio and
Sure.
the people? What was it about the model that you chose?
I mean, I like the fact that you have like an international network. A lot of the things like what Jonathan was talking about, Jonathan Normali, about just when you have such a massive network, you know, throughout the whole entire country. You know, before we were Keller Williams, we'd pass clients to multiple states, to Miami, different areas. And, you know, you have a relationship with a broker in another state. They may say, oh, I mean, I took your client here or there, but I never heard from him again. When you're in the Keller network, if that referral agreement is in the system, you can't really get cut out. And you're going to be able to follow that deal and that transaction, whether the agent is being communicative or not. So I don't know. I just saw like the bigger picture of having like over 200,000 agents, having, you know, being in 50 countries, you know, give or take, just the power of what you could do with it. I also really wanted to make it strong for the agents. So with the capping model and some of the other things, if we transition into a firm that wasn't great for the agents, then none of the people that I brought over would have stayed. So, you know, it had to make sense. So it wasn't just about me. It had to make sense for the agents. I was really willing to sacrifice for myself. Then if the agents weren't getting what they were going to get, they weren't going to stay.
Yep.
So we had to like be creative on that. And that capping model is unique. On anywhere else we would have gone, there's no capping model. So,
And somebody sent me something yesterday based on that, where most of the agents are gearing towards either the rev share or the capital model now.
yes.
And
Look, there's other smaller, you know, 100% firms out there, but when you don't have a brand, when you don't have a name, when you don't have the structures and the tools that KW has, it's really not the same.
Sure.
You know, it's a
It's
different thing.
Totally different world. Where do you see your world going now? Like what's in the future for you? What's 2025 look for
I mean, with
Urban Solutions?
2025, we're really trying to hire, you know, less in a way, like quality over quantity. We're trying to build more teams in the office and try to like help those teams. We actually just created a podcast studio in our office, and the Strat team just did a great podcast, which is going to come out soon. And we're going to do a lot more like interviews and, you know, social media. When we started, it wasn't what it is today. You know,
Sure.
we have people, we have a girl, for instance, that just did a sale for almost $4 million straight off social media. This was not something that we really saw like in the early 2000s. So we really want to take that kind of the next level. So we want to do podcasts with agents. We want to interview agents with clients, talk about past experiences, have some that are fun, some that are more like market-based, market updates.
Sure.
A lot of agents were doing some of these things like on their own social media, but we want to do it more like as an office.
Oh, awesome. That's pretty
You know.
cool. And then
You'll see it because when you come to the office, like what we had as a room that was storage now is like like this in a way, which is
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like you doing that.
definitely.
We'll do a show there
Got to do that.
one day. And then what about your personal business? What are you
This
looking at?
year, last year, I was not in production that much. I was a lot more in the office, hiring, teaching, training, and I'm still doing that. But this year, I'm getting into production a little bit more. I'm working with a bit more sellers, and I'm trying to bring on some agents during that process to maybe pitch listings with and try to get listings with them. And so I did that with one gentleman who was somewhat of a new agent, and we've had a successful process so far. We pitched the listing together, got the listing. Now we have an accepted offer on the listing.
Awesome.
And that happened to be an expired as well. And so I love being the second or third agent on a listing because when it's expired, in many cases, you've gone through like the pain points on price and some other pain points. So when you're the second or third broker, sometimes I feel like there's a better opportunity to sell it.
Sure.
So I love expireds. So, but
Especially in this environment.
especially in this environment. But the fun thing was being able to pitch with a somewhat new agent, help them get the listing, help them do the whole process and sell the listing. And so I'm trying to do that with people that want to do it. If an agent doesn't want to pitch with me or what have you, it's totally fine. It's just an opportunity, you know.
Well, I asked Aaron the same question, and I'm curious about this in Manhattan. Where do you see the market now? Is it like turmoil? Is it steady? Is it, is it calm? Is it tornado-like? What is it like? And
Well, I mean,
how do you navigate through
a
it?
lot of these things are consumer confidence. And about a month ago, and we're still dealing with it a bit now, as you know, there was a lot of new issues with tariffs and a lot of turmoil in the stock market. And when you have turmoil in the stock market, it can create a lot of uncomfort because it's uncertainty.
Sure.
So when there's uncertainty in the market, that can make people feel that I don't know what I want to do. I don't want to buy. I don't know if I want to rent. But, a wise broker once said, you should buy when the blood is in the streets. It really is an opportunity. And Barbara Corcoran recently said, this is a prime opportunity. If the rates do go down at some point and we get close to the low sixes, if you will, or even under that, these prices are all going to go up. So when the turmoil was happening, like over the last few weeks, and the Dow really just plummeted, you had almost like two kinds of clients. You had one client that was like, listen, I'm using my investment account to buy. I was going to borrow off that, and now I'm down 30%, so I can't buy. And that was my down payment. I can't buy. So that's one client. But then you had another set of clients that were like, listen, there's so much volatility in the market, I have to buy because I want to buy brick and mortar. It's solid. It's a different type of asset. It's not going to fluctuate like a stock or a crypto, if you will, would. So it was kind of an interesting response. It wasn't just everybody freaking out. There was some people freaking out and they couldn't buy for financial reasons. And then others, it was like pushing them to buy. But now we're back to almost 43,000 on the Dow. There's a little bit more, I don't know, like it's leveled out a bit. So since it's leveled out, people are a little bit more open right now. So I feel like there's still turmoil, but I think this is a great opportunity to buy. I think if people don't buy right now, they're really going to kick themselves later. Yes, the rates are high, but you're not stuck to that rate. We can go in and we can negotiate. There's certain markets, kind of like what Aaron said, on the Upper West Side, like we just did 2 deals in Williamsburg, Chris Costa, an amazing agent who I know you're quite close with. And both of those were over asking. One, he represented the seller, did a stellar job over asking. The other, he represented the buyer, almost $100,000 over asking as well. Whereas if we were in Murray Hill, we might be negotiating and maybe get 5 to 7% off asking.
Wow.
So it just depends on like the market that you're in. There are some areas we got straight bidding wars right now, and others you're going to get money off.
It's so crazy though, right?
It's crazy. Yeah, it's
Which one do you prefer? Like you prefer this kind of market? Or, and I know it's a silly question, but do you prefer a market like this, or do you like a lot calmer and?
I would love better rates. I mean,
Obviously.
If the market was,
But imagine if you had better rates in this market.
if you had better rates in this market, we would just have more volume, and then more deals would be done.
But do you think more houses will come on the market with that, or do you?
I think so.
You know.
Because, I mean, look, it's hard to say. I mean, if someone really has to sell for financial reasons, then okay. But if you're considering selling, but you have a 3% rate, and now I have to sell and replace this at a 7% rate, am I that motivated to sell that property? I understand that, there's life happens and you may really have to sell. So it doesn't matter, like whatever your rate is. But if you have the choice and I have to replace this at 6.5 or 7 and I'm at 3 now, maybe we wait.
Maybe.
What do you think about that?
Sort of agree.
Yeah.
I do. I sort of agree, but I really don't think the rate dictates it. I think it's more of the situation of the person. I think
Sure.
I think a lot has to do with the new construction,
Yes.
especially outside of New York City. I think, and even in New York, what's the development like in New York City right now? I think it's down a little bit compared to
It's
where it
down.
used
I
to
mean,
be.
there's a lot of sponsor units available.
Yeah.
It's really a great opportunity, actually, in that.
Yep, but in Long Island, where the new development, there's no new construction, which I think is affecting the market also with
Definitely.
no new houses, so you're not getting people buying up into that newer home and then putting
So
their
less
houses on
people
the
putting
market.
things on the market.
Correct. So I think
Right.
it goes to that, and I think I don't know how that's going to change because or when it's going to change. I don't think that has to do with rates. I think that's just land.
Sure.
So
But it's a catch-22 though, because for rates to drop, you almost need a recession.
Yes.
But if there's a recession, everybody's freaking out because there's a recession.
Right.
So it's like,
That's the catch, yeah.
That-
I was going to
that's-
say that, but, I don't want to really get into that whole,
It's true.
but it's, no, it is, it's very true. I know this. I know we go in, I was saying this to Erin earlier. It's interesting. Everything goes in cycles with real estate. And
Yeah.
that's why I was never too worried. This is a different cycle, though.
Yeah.
This is like something we've never seen before.
And how do you feel about it? Like, what do you see that's different than that we haven't seen in the past?
I think it's hard to put my finger on it. I just think it's intriguing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. It's new, right? I think it's exciting. I think you're seeing, I think you're going to see a big uptick when it hits. I think once it does break, I think it's going to break and it's going to,
I feel like that too.
I think it's going to be.
It's interesting that the buyer agency agreement situation with the NAR lawsuits and what have you, it hasn't been as much of an issue as a lot of agents thought it
We
was.
were talking about that also. Yeah, it's not. It's nothing changed.
No.
Nothing really changed, and but I'm more for with the whole clear cooperation, being a part of that. I think my take on it is everything should be on multiple listing. Everything should be out there for you guys
Well,
to
how
sell.
do you feel about that? The private
Like I said,
listings?
I'm more towards. I think you give the consumer a little bit more with everybody's help.
Yeah.
So I think the brokers should work together when it comes to that. I don't agree. I'm not going to really pick a side, but my side would be if I was a seller, I would want everybody selling it.
So you want clear cooperation?
Yeah, I want clear cooperation.
Got it.
And
I understand. I mean, it makes sense.
I don't think you're helping me by one person putting it on the market and then going forward with that. That's my opinion. But
Sure.
it's the great thing about this business. Everybody has an opinion.
No, of course.
Mine is, I'm not looking to double deal or do any of that stuff. My job when I was selling real estate was to get the house sold for the homeowner at the biggest number,
Exactly.
right? Because I worked for the seller. And if I worked with the buyer now, it's to get them the best price and the best terms for their property. So I'm always going to go with the side as a selling agent that I think all agents should work together and get it sold.
I agree.
And
I mean,
that's my
there's
opinion
also
on it.
strength in numbers that way. So in a way, everybody can help each other.
Yeah, a lot of people would sit there and say, well, the client's going to come to you eventually. What if they don't?
Yeah, it's true.
What if they don't? What if they're locked into a buyer brokerage and they don't want to go sign with you now?
Yes.
That's the other thing. They're not going to get everybody because they're locked into buyer brokerages now because the way the market is now, right, with everything. So if they're locked into that, you just took that house away from that buyer technically because they're not going to pay two commissions on it the way I see it, right?
Sure.
So you did a disservice to the seller.
Oh, meaning if you have an agency agreement with someone, they don't have access to that property.
Correct.
Got it.
If it's private, right,
Yeah.
and they're not going to let us in, they're going to, they're not going to cooperate. So
That's a good argument, though, for that you're in a way doing a disjustice to the
doing
public
disjudgment.
because they're unable to actually see these listings.
That's my opinion.
Sure.
Now, again, I'm one person with that opinion. I don't know what others. What's your take on it?
I mean, after explaining it like that, I somewhat agree. I mean, if there was a co-broke opportunity and it was public to other firms, then we'd be happy to show those listings. So, but if it's completely private and you don't even know if there's any commission structure at all, and they're locked in, it could create a problem.
It's going to create a problem for the seller.
Yes.
And we're here to represent the seller. Why
Ultimately.
wouldn't you want to tell them what's best
Exactly.
for them, right? And why wouldn't you want to do what's best for them? So I guess you know where I stand on it.
No, I agree.
But it's my humble opinion, and
No, I feel the same way. I mean, our job is to help the seller, and our fiduciary is to get the best and highest price for it. And we want to be able to get as many buyers in front of them, as possible.
Right.
And so if we don't have access to listings, then you can't.
And you can't do it, So, but with that being said, what is your 2025 going to look like privately? Like, what are you looking to?
I want to increase my production. I want to do a lot more. I want to be more on the seller side. For many years, we focused a lot more on buyers and sellers, or at least my business. And so I've kind of slowly transitioned that. And we're really trying to work with agents to have them also focus on the seller side.
Let's go back to the clear cooperation real quick because you brought in Zillow. What do you think about them? What they said about that?
About the clear operation?
Cooperation.
They feel like that we should have it.
They
right?
feel that we should have it.
Yeah.
And they're not going to work with the agent if they put it up at private at first, and then when it goes to a
Yes.
public, they're not going to put it on.
No.
So
They give a time limit too. I think Street Easy said like after you list something, you have I think 24 hours in order to put it up on Street Easy,
think
and
so,
other than that, you can't. You know,
It's going to be an interesting 2025, 2026. I
Very.
really do think it's going to be interesting. And again, we're in a time where it's new, so it's exciting, and you know,
It is.
that's what life's about, right? And you know, so I look forward to it. So, Andrew, we've been here for a while. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. I learned so much.
It's a pleasure.
Look to have
Let's
you
do
back
it again.
soon.
I'd love for you to
Absolutely.
come do one in our office.
I definitely will. I
know,
definitely
like your
will.
office
yeah,
as well.
Our office,
You know,
yeah.
exactly.
Love to do it. Love to have you back again with a client, and we'll, you know, get into that whole, you know, world.
Definitely. I have a client that I think would be great for this.
Awesome.
So I got to talk to him.
Yes, absolutely. So again, thank you so much. Love you, brother, and thanks for choosing Keller.
Thank you, man.
Bye, bud. Be good.
Pleasure.